You're listening to LCC Alumni Stories, a show dedicated to highlighting the amazing alumni of Lansing Community College. I'm Steve Robinson, president of LCC, and on each episode I have the awesome privilege of getting to know one of our many inspiring alums and hearing about their experiences at and since leaving LCC. The LCC alumni community is expansive and far-reaching. They're an incredibly diverse group of people, representative of all walks of life, working in hundreds of industries across the country. LCC Alumni Stories shines a bright light on alumni who make a positive contribution to their community and showcases those who've overcome obstacles and barriers to achieve academic and personal success. These are their dynamic stories. My guest today is Angela Hook, a 1998 graduate of LCC and one of our amazing academic success coaches. I am so excited to talk to you today. Angela, how are you doing?
I'm doing absolutely amazing. Thank you for having me on your show.
Amazing. That's the word, right? And before we talk about your time here as a student, Angela, I would like our listeners to hear a little bit about you and what you do for us. You are an academic success coach. For our listeners that don't know what that is, what do you do as an academic success coach? What's your job?
Majority, I work with students and I help them with time management, study strategies. We also help them with goal setting. If they have needs for internal and external resources, we help them with that. We help them navigate those resources here at Lansing Community College.
I love that word, navigation. So some people might be familiar with what an academic advisor is or what a counselor is. What I hear you saying is, as a success coach, you're helping students with all this other stuff that you have to do to be a successful student. Is that right?
Yes. The main thing that I like to say is that I like to build that relationship with that student. So I'm the go-to person.
Go-to person for relationships. And you and I both know, because this is what we do for a living, there's so much research pointing to the fact that that relationship is what helps students succeed. A lot of times when students stop out or they don't achieve their goals, it's because they haven't had these other strategies that you're there to help them with, right?
Correct.
So while you're working with a student, I heard you talk about time management, and what are some of the skills that you would help students develop so they can be successful in and out of the classroom?
Well, a lot of times it's study strategies. How do I build strategies in order to help me to be able to study better? And then also we have the time management. How do I manage my time? If I'm a working student, I may be have children, many other different things that may go on in a student's life. We help them to be able to navigate those things so they could be successful and to be able to do what it is that they that come to LCC for.
You know, you use that word navigator again. I have colleagues at other colleges where roles like yours actually have that title, like a navigator. And that's really what it is. When you think about navigation, it implies a journey, right?
Yes. Being
a student and a successful student, it is a journey.
Yes.
Well, thank you for what you do for our students.
No
and
problem.
Again, all the research points to the fact that what causes students to stop or not be successful is often that stuff outside of academics, outside of the classroom. So just on behalf of everybody, thank you for helping our students manage their time, get their study skills, and do everything they need to be successful. I really appreciate you.
No problem.
And your colleagues. So before we talk about your time here as a student, I have to ask, it must be interesting to work at the place where you studied. Is it different than, you have colleagues who didn't go to school here, right?
Correct.
Do you think it's different for you working here, knowing that this is, where you took classes and where you got your degree? Tell me about that. What's it like to work here as one of our alum?
You know what? I think it's an absolutely amazing opportunity for me to give back. And the reason why I say that is because when I started at Lansing Community College, I was a first-generation student.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't have academic success coaches.
Right.
So I came in with what I knew. And so to be able to see a student walk in the door, or they call you on the phone to say, I need this, or I need help with getting resources, or I need to know how to communicate with my instructor, or I'm struggling with time management. And for me to be able to reflect back what that meant for me, because I didn't have that. And so to be able to say, I'm here, we're here to support you, whatever it is that you need to make you successful here, just know that's why we are here to help you do that.
So you're a first generation college student, first person in your family to go to college. But what's interesting to me is this is where you went to college. So you're helping
Yes.
other first gen students do what you did.
Yes.
So what I heard you say is you know what you've learned since that you know they don't know.
Yes.
What are some of those things? What are some of the things that you are aware of the fact our first generation students might not know about?
Well, one of the things that I would say is when I got to Lansing Community College, I didn't know a whole lot about to go about enrolling.
Okay.
How do I enroll in college? Where do I need to go get my books? Who do I need to talk to if I have a problem? What is counseling available for me? It was just so many gaps when I got here that now when I see that student and they walk through that door, that they have the opportunity to utilize some of the tools that I didn't have.
Well, and you mentioned that when you were a student, and we're going to talk about that, there wasn't an academic success coaching program. So apart from for all that stuff, you had to kind of make it happen for yourself, right?
Yes, I did. And it was hard. And it was times that I wanted to give up. It was times that I felt like, do I really belong here? But one of the things that I will say that it was so key to me, I had an instructor. His name was Jack Jesse.
Okay.
And that instructor really helped me. Anytime that I would walk into his classroom, I just felt a sense of belonging because that's how he opened up his class. You could just feel that when you walked through the door, you were just as important as anybody else that was sitting in that class.
I love hearing stories like that. That is wonderful. And I will tell you this, I know based on our conversation today and what you do for a living, that there's students on down the road who will be saying the same thing about Angela Hook.
Yes.
Yeah. So maybe that's a great way for us to get in the time machine and go back to when you were a student here. I think you said you started in 1994. How did you first hear about Lansing Community College? What brought you here?
Thank you for asking that question because that's going to give you really the history of my walk before I got to LCC.
Okay.
I had gotten pregnant. I was about 14 years old. I ended up dropping out of high school. I went to Everett High School.
All right.
I dropped out of high school. And so I stayed out of school probably for like 20 years. So I decided, you know what, I want to go back because I want to be an example to my children.
Right.
And so I ended up going to Willow Plaza. They had a GED program.
Okay.
And I still remember her name. Her name was Mary Ann. And I started taking my GED test. And the last test that I took, it was a math test, and I failed.
Okay.
And I remember saying to her, I am not coming back. I'm not going to do this math test. And she really encouraged me. She said, yes, you are. And I came back. I did that test, and I passed. And I remember they made me the class speaker.
You were the class speaker for your GED completion class.
Yes. And I remember looking out in the audience, and I had 3 children at that time, and they were looking at me with such amazement. And I remember how it felt to walk across that stage. And then I told my teacher, I said, you know what? I want to go further. I want that feeling again. And so she really encouraged me to enroll at LCC. And I ended up coming here, and I had a friend, her name was Denise. She was in a dental hygiene program, and she told me a little bit about LCC. And so that's how I got here.
I love that story so much. And I will tell you, in the 30 years I've been doing this, I have been blessed to hear versions of that story. And I want to repeat a couple pieces of it. I heard you say that your children inspired you. You wanted to be an example to your children as they were moving through their education.
Yes.
And that's so moving to me. And and I can picture you at that ceremony, seeing your kids out in the audience. And at every community college where I've been, we actively try to recruit students at those high school completion events. And I'm so glad that we got you.
Yes.
So you came and you started. What kind of classes did you take? What were you studying?
I was in the human services, substance abuse at that time.
Okay.
It was like a double major.
Mm-hmm.
And I came in because I was so passionate about helping people because of the background or family background that I had actually came from. It was a lot of trauma. I would witness people, that use drugs, and I just made a decision that I wanted to get involved in this field.
Okay.
Because I knew about family dynamics and what that does to people. And so to be able to provide that hope to people that was on the other end of the spectrum, not only the parents, but the children. Mm-hmm. So I made a decision that I wanted to do that. And I could remember I would come into the classrooms and I did not have an idea about anything the instructor was talking about because I had such a big gap.
Okay.
From the time I dropped out to the time I got to get my GED and then come into Lansing Community College.
Right. You had two gaps. You had a chronological gap of being out of school for a long time, but also because you left at age 14, you had that gap of not completing what I guess you call traditional high school, those 4 years, and graduating when you're 18.
Yes.
So that was quite a gap to overcome for you.
Oh, my God. I would just come into the classrooms and I would leave out crying.
Oh.
And I would say to myself, you don't belong here. But I would go and the instructor would be talking language that I didn't understand.
Right.
And I would have to go and look up words in the dictionary and then come back and say, okay, I can do this. And so it was just so many barriers, but I just did not want to give up.
And you didn't.
I didn't.
So you progressed through your classes.
Yes.
What was your degree when you finished in 98?
Mm-hmm.
And was it in that substance abuse program?
Well, the first one I went through, I got the certificate,
right.
And that was in 1997.
Okay.
And then I graduated with a general's degree.
Okay, great. Mm-hmm. Excellent.
And the reason why is because when I got here, like I said, I didn't have a whole lot of support. I didn't know a whole lot about doing college.
Right.
And so I would take classes, drop them, start back over again. I had a lot of family life issues that would come up that would prevent me from to continue to go. But about the time I got to the end of the program, I didn't have enough credits.
Okay.
And the Women's Resource Center, which is now the Adult Resource Center, they were so amazing that they helped me and they paid for my classes.
That's fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so you were able to bridge that credit gap and finish up. And by the way, congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations. We're really proud of you as an alumnus. Now, when did you come back as an employee? When did you come to work at LCC?
Well, it's really amazing. I got hired in April of the 17th, 2017.
I love that you remember the date.
I don't remember it. I was looking pretty much.
Oh, sounds like it was a significant date in your life. So you came back on that day, and tell me about that day.
Yes, I remember that I was working at the time. I was working at St. Vincent's Catholic Charities. I was working with the refugees program. And then I started working for CACS. I had just got hired at CACS. And I really enjoyed my job.
Okay.
But one of the things that happened was prior to me getting hired with CACS, I had completed an application for LCC, the Academic Success Coaches. Mm-hmm. And I seen that job description. I said, this is me. This fit me. I have to be able to apply for this job so I can give back to the students.
I get chills hearing you say that because, I mean, I wasn't here when the program was created, but I'm sure that the folks who put to go those initial job descriptions would just be jumping up and down to hear that somebody read that position description and said, "That's me. I'm gonna do that." So before you come to work for us as a success coach, you were in a helping profession already, kind of I'm guessing a caseworker type. Like, tell me a little bit about your jobs in those in the charities that you were talking about before you came here. What kinds of help were you providing?
Okay. So, yes, I had been in the human service industry for over 20 years.
Right.
I work with substance abuse treatment centers.
Mm-hmm.
I also work for the Advent House Ministries, which was homeless population.
Right.
I work for St. Vincent Catholic Charities, which
Right.
I work with the refugee services.
Mm-hmm.
And then I also work for CACS, where I work as a case manager with moms, parents in general,
Yeah.
and their children.
Right. And there is a great deal of overlap between that population that you were helping and our student population, right?
Yes.
So here's a question I have for you. The kinds of skills or activities that you engaged in when you were doing that kind of work in those agencies with refugees, with moms, with families impacted by substance abuse, those skills and techniques and tactics that you used, do you employ those same kinds of thought processes and work here when you're working with our students?
Most definitely.
Yeah, tell me about them.
A lot of the skills that I use was people skills.
Right.
You have to have, you got to know how to work with people.
Right.
And then, I would really had a lot of compassion when it came to this particular population because they always felt like I didn't belong.
Right.
You also have to be able to help people to develop those life skills.
Right.
Because sometimes we can take for granted that everybody have life skills, and that is not always accurate.
Right.
And so you have to, have those skills to be able to pick up on, okay, this person needs some additional skills, communication skills. They may need to know, how do I advocate for myself? I mean, there's so many different elements to working with people. And so I brought those skills in with working with my students. I wanted my students to know that I'm reachable.
Yeah.
That also that I'm just like them, that I am no different. We all have different backgrounds and different struggles. But I want them to know that despite all that, whatever you go through in your life, that you can overcome it. But it takes perseverance. It takes dedication. It takes support. And so that's what I kind of talk with my students about when they feel like, you know what, I want to give up. I get that. I get wanting to give up. But I also get the fact that even though you want to give up, you keep going.
You have the exact perfect background to serve as an academic success coach. I mean, and I just want to repeat back a couple of things that I heard. You talked about the need for compassion and understanding, meeting students where they are is essentially what you're talking about, but also knowing that there's some work that they need to do both on the communication side and some of these success skills that a lot of people just assume they already have.
Yes.
And you probably have to have that difficult conversation about, there's something here you need to work on, right? And,
yes.
And how are students receptive to conversations like that when you point out, look, there's some things you need to work on with communications or maybe time management or showing up on time. How do students receive that kind of feedback?
Well, I think for me, it's how you deliver it.
Yeah.
And I'm very transparent.
Mm-hmm.
So when I'm talking with my students, I got to treat them with a level of respect.
I think that's key.
Yeah, and then also just letting them know with my tone of voice, letting them know, hey, I've been there, but there's some things that you have to do. And I always tell them, why are you here? What is your bottom line? And your bottom line is to what? Is to graduate so you can move on, whether that be going into a university or if you want to start your own business, whatever that look like for you, we know life shows up.
Yeah, it does.
But when life shows up, then you have to look at my bottom line.
Well, I think there are two things that are key to the success that you've talked about. One of them is empathizing with students, and I am delighted that that you're so upfront and telling students, like, I've been where you are.
Yes.
You know, so that makes all the difference in the world. In the time I've been in what we do for a living, the students our employees, our team members who were also first-gen college students and also had to overcome obstacles to achieve their goals are some of the most impactful and successful team members we have. So thank you for that. But the other thing I heard you say is that piece about respect and letting students know that they can do this and starting with their why, like you said, what is their goal? What are they trying to do? If every student had somebody having that conversation with them, I think that we'd see so much success.
Yes, definitely. And the other thing was the support.
Mm-hmm.
I think for us as academic success coaches, we do a very good job with supporting our students.
Mm-hmm.
Again, like you talked about, meeting them where they are.
Right.
Because every student is different.
Correct.
And I also encouraged them, my struggles of when I came back to LCC. I always give them this story about how I went to LCC and I got my certificate, then I got my associate's general, then I went on to get my bachelor's.
And where did you do that?
I did that at Grand Canyon University.
Oh, okay. Was that an online program?
Yes.
Okay.
It was.
What is your bachelor's in?
It's in applied management.
Okay, excellent.
Yep.
So you're able to tell your students, not only did I get the certificate, not only did I get the associate's degree, I got that bachelor's degree. And how do they react?
They look at me like, wow. And then my master's degree.
Oh.
I got a master's in human services. And now I will be graduating in 4 weeks with a second master's.
Get out of here. So
Yes.
The first one, what's your first master's?
It's in human services, and that's
Okay.
from Liberty University.
From Liberty. Yep, I know Liberty. What are we getting ready to graduate in this time?
From Siena Heights University, I'm getting it in clinical mental health counseling.
And I bet that training is so helpful for what you do every day with us.
Yes, yes.
Oh, that's so great. Well, there's one more theme, Angela, that I'd like to return to that you've talked about a couple of times. And our billboards, you belong here, right?
Yes.
Right? Important part of who we are as a community college. But a couple of times in our conversation, I've heard you reference what some people call the imposter syndrome or a feeling that you don't belong. It sounds to me like you had some of that feeling when you came here and that you are able to help students get past that feeling. How do you do that? Because I know our students come here thinking, I'm not up to this. I'm not college material. I can't do this. How do you work with a student who might be in that mindset? And how does your own experience help with that?
Again, I think that one of the key things for me as an academic success coach is I'm very transparent.
Yeah.
And I let them know when I see them feeling like I don't belong, because you can see it in body language. I done had students come to me and they just cried. And I would just let them know, you know what? I've been there. I know what it feels like to go in those classrooms and you're sitting in the class and you don't understand what the instructor is saying,
Mm-hmm.
and you walk out of there feeling like I will never come back. I know what that feels like. I also know what it feels like to succeed, because I have a deeper level of appreciation for my education, because I had to work so hard in order to be able to achieve it. And so I let them know that you may have to work a little harder.
Yeah.
You may have to cut off the phone or get off the social media. You may have to put in more hours than someone that has been exposed to education all their lives. And it's okay, but don't give up. Look at the small victories. And that's what you begin to tell yourself. If you can make those small accomplishments, that if you show up for class, that's an accomplishment. If you put everything that you got into a test and you pass that test, that's an accomplishment.
Get those wins.
Yes, yes. And so in that, that's what I let them know, that you can do this. Is it going to take work? Yes. Did you cry Did I cry some days? Yes. But when I got ready to walk across that stage, different times. I'm telling you how that felt to me. It was one of the most rewarding things that I could ever tell anybody.
Well, Angela, I want to thank you for being an example for our students and for being transparent and authentic with them so that they can see their future selves in what you were able to accomplish.
Yes.
It sounds like that is maybe your secret sauce, right? Is that you can leverage how, look, it was hard for me. I did it. I'm collecting degrees.
Yes.
Right? Second master's degree. That's fantastic.
Yes.
Angela, it has been wonderful to have this conversation. And on behalf of everybody, I want to thank you for what you do for our students and for sharing yourself and your journey to help them be successful. I've really enjoyed this conversation.
Thank you for having me.
LCC Alumni Stories is recorded by Steve Robinson on LCC's downtown campus and produced in the WLNZ studio. The soundtrack, Who Told You, is licensed through DeWolf Music and was performed by Ian Mahanty. Thanks for listening. Learn more about what our alumni have been up to at lccconnect.org. If you're an LCC alum and would like to share your story with me, send me an email at steve.robinson@lcc.edu. Until then, keep learning. This is LCC Connect on WLNZ 89.7 FM.